So back to the orange chairs. Sorry. You have to sit for 30 minutes in this orange chairs. Now you only have three options when you're in these orange chairs, and that's either to use the bathroom or you need some tissue to like wipe your nose, blow your nose, whatever, and you think your 30 minutes is up, right? So, mind you, these chairs are not like isolated or anything like that. They're placed randomly all throughout this house. All the children can see that you're in a chair. It's very like demeaning and embarrassing, actually. But so I remember like getting sat in the chair and I'm like, oh, I gotta use the bathroom. And they're like, oh, that's a violation. You cannot talk in the chair. You have to raise your hand and wait for us to acknowledge you, right? And then when we do acknowledge you, you nod your head yes or shake your head no. It's not a matter of you speaking, right? So I'm like, okay. And they're like, oh, you think that this is a joke? So they're like, slide to the floor without standing up. So now you're sitting like in a regular chair, and they're expecting you to hold on to the bottom of your chair and slide down and sit Indian style on the floor, right? Without standing up. Because if you stand up, now you're a threat and they're going to attack you, right? So, I slid to the floor and I'm like, I still don't understand what this is all about. They're like, you violated again. You're supposed to raise your hand, lay on the floor. Now, mind you, this is carpeted floor. It's been in this house for like ages. They're like, lay on the floor and have your head facing left towards the door, right? So you have to do like wiggle yourself into a position where you can just like lay down on your stomach. Your arms have to be directly beside you, and you have to have your head facing this way. Again, like however their schedule is going on right now, that day continues, and people just walk around you and don't acknowledge you, right? So, I remember like laying on the floor and they slid like this plastic like table mat table placeholder thing under my face, whatever, right? So then I'm like, this is bullshit. And they're like, staff. And it's like, staff from every floor was like running and like to tackle me. I'm already like in a defenseless position. So for all of these oversized adults to jump on an adolescent body that's already defenseless on the floor is beyond me, right? It's not like I'm a ninja and I can just like hop up out of a laying down position and hiya. I can't do that. So for you guys to take it as far as you guys take it with the physical part was beyond me. But anyway, so now say you have to use the bathroom in that position. At the time that I was there, you're not allowed to do anything when you're laying on the floor. Them options of like bathroom or tissue are out the window when you're in the laying position, right? So, I'm like, oh, can you guys get off me? I gotta pee, I gotta pee, I gotta pee. And it was like, no. So I ended up like peeing myself, right? And then so the process to get from laying on the floor to back into society is pretty much everything in reverse. So now I gotta lay on the floor motionless for 30 minutes, then sit up into a Indian style sitting position for 30 minutes, and then slide into the chair and sit there for 30 minutes, right? So this is all after I peed myself, right? So I've been sitting in my own urine for about like 2 to 3 hours. Like it was just ridiculous, right? So I remember like bringing it up to like the superior, which was the older guy I mentioned in the earlier in the video, and I think he realized that that was like a legit lawsuit, so he made it a rule that like if anybody uses the bathroom in any type of like restraint or on the floor, you have to immediately let them get up and take a shower, but then you got to lay back down in that same position. It's crazy, right? So yeah, that was my first like weird encounter. And then so we go to bed, and then um you wake up again. You're not allowed to like sit up in bed at all. Like you can just be laying there all night wide awake. You're not allowed to sit in bed unless you call for the overnight staff that's there and they give you permission to sit up, and they like shine a flashlight in your like, eyes and stuff. So the next day, like I kind of like overslept because I wasn't used to having to get up at 7 o'clock in the morning. Like this is like army drills. Like wake up, everybody has to get up. You got to make your bed like in the army. They monitor how you make your bed. Like it's a matter of like in the army, it has to be like precise. They show you one time, and then after that, you have to make your bed that exact way, or like you gotta sit in the chair and stuff. Now they have like a point system where it's like if you get so many chairs a week, you can't move up a level, right? Now level comes with its own privileges, but not much. Like usual human privileges that you should have as a child. Like I should be able to have to walk into the next room without yelling, "I'm going into the next room." Like you get what I'm saying? Like or like not being monitored in the bathroom, or like part of the privilege is like making the fucking tables for the next day, like stupid shit, right? So but each level that you move up, you could work towards going into like a less strict environment, because they have like they call them step downs. So it's like I was in the most strict one, which was they go by street, so let's just say like Main Street for now. Like Main Street was the most strict one, right? And then the next one is like Red Street, right? Red Street is like less like lack of privacy, I guess. They controlled everything to like if you can cut your nails, if you could do your eyebrows, how you could do your hair. You're only allowed to like wash your hair like twice a week. Like they monitored everything. I remember them like marking down on the calendar when I got my I had to report to whoever it was at the door at the time. It could be a male, it could be a female. When I got my period and when my period ended, even with like OBGYN appointments, there was somebody that was directly in the room. There is no kind of privacy when it's time for you to shave. You are being watched shaved. If you nick yourself, you're being punished as if you did it on purpose. Like, and then as a kid that wants to like work towards building their like levels up, it's like a stupid sit. You get what I'm saying? Like, and it was really hard for me to like find the middle ground. Like I had to speak a certain way. I wasn't allowed to say yo, or like, I grew up in like a black ethnic community where, we speak in slang and stuff. And the fact is, it's like I had to like retrain my mind into like, or I'm gonna like, it's like a fear. It's like a fear that we had, right? So then I dealt with this stuff for like a year and a half. I was always on the lowest level because I was just a rebel. I've always been a rebel child. I never was one of those children that just was like, oh, this is the way it is. Okay, I gotta eventually just do it. It took me a very long time to just do it because it just did not make sense. Like they monitored everything, everything. We ate only turkey meat. Like it was very little the food that we got there. I probably lost like 100 pounds with them, which I mean that was more of the positive. Like I looked really good health wise, but the manner that you're being treated, it's legit. It's like legit a cult. Like you're forced to like celebrate these pagan traditions, even if you don't agree with it. You're not allowed to have an opinion at all. Like, and then if you're like, what I think was one of the worst of experiences was like this Wednesday meeting they had. They had all these adults sitting in these all fancy ass chairs, and all us kids from every house. There's like 4 or 5 houses. So this is like 50 to like 80 girls sitting on the floor on a hard fucking tile floor in the basement, Indian style, and watch them glare at us as they talk about like, oh, what we went through throughout the week, and how did we behave, and like if you have any complaints. This is the only time once a week you have once a week to complain about how you're being treated, and if everybody believes that it should be a change, then maybe there will be a change, right? Um, and then they talk about everything that you've done wrong. And it's more of like, it's not like, oh, hey, Kay, you could work on this. It was never that simple. It was always like very judgmental, very demeaning. I just didn't feel human. My feelings were invalidated. Like, it was just so, it was legit mental, that place is mental abuse. Even when it's time for doing chores, like the way that they inspect the chores, you would think we're in like the 1950s. Like they take like the white glove and like wipe all corners. Like you have all these expectations out of children. I never got to be a child while being there. Like you guys have all this like, oh, we're gonna change the baddest kid. We're gonna change them. But then it's like, okay, but what about them still being children? Like you guys totally like ripped that away from them. And then on top of all of that, we're not even allowed to like interact with any type of community, nothing, because we're being schooled by the same people, and we're not allowed to leave the house. There's like alarms on every window, alarms on every door. And when I say that alarm go beep one time and there's like 50 staff waiting there to tackle that ass, that's exactly what's going on. Like it was just so traumatic. You get what I'm saying? And like I wasn't like your sexuality. Like there's some girls that know immediately that they're gay and they're not comfortable with dressing like a female. You're forced to dress how they want you to dress. It was just like it's very forced. Now and I can get why some children that are out of control or like have behavioral problems need structure. I totally agree with that. What I don't agree with is the amount of fear that I had to just be myself. You get what I'm saying? Like they, you can't even chew your food a certain way without them like, well, Caitlin, why are you chewing that way? You know what I mean? Like it's just so invasive. But to the outside looking in, they like I said, they get these children that are well known in the system as being like the bad kid, and all of a sudden these kids are doing really well. Of course, they're gonna side with this, but like it was so abusive and in a passive aggressive way. Like even when we was in the community, we had to pretend like we wasn't in this cult, but we're not allowed to interact with anybody. But we had to pretend like you gotta pretend you're happy, make us look good. Like that's what it that pow, that's what it is. That program was about what looks good, right? It doesn't matter the manner on which they choose to make themselves look good, right? So in the end, what I noticed was each girl that was there, that was bad and turned it around later on when they got released or like they just left that place due to age, due to the fact they graduated. I personally didn't graduate. I actually that's a story for another day. But I ended up seeing the cops and I ended up like, fuck the police and like hitting somebody in front of the police for them to arrest me. And even then, the program wasn't trying to let them arrest me, but the cop by law had to. And then when I went to court, I told them, like, oh, I'll kill myself. I'll take the officer's gun and shoot myself in the head right now if you send me back there. So that's how I escaped it. But it was legit like an escape though. Like I was so desperate to get from under the hold of these guys. Like the whole mind state behind it is so evil. But overall, what I noticed is everybody that left there rebelled horribly after they left there. All these people that came in and lost this weight, they gained all their weight plus some back. There was some girls that was like been sexually abused, so now they're overly sexualized and stuff, or making themselves promiscuous and stuff. So instead of them really working on what's the core of what to get there, they just forced them to stop, right? So when they got out of there, they became, most girls I know was escorts like myself. Um, Dabbled and dabbled in drugs. I've never seen a girl like, and don't get me wrong, there has been girls that swear by this program, but from my experience, everybody that I met, and I met quite a few girls through there, did not do well after leaving there. So like it's funny because this program is still up and running, and if you look at the history of the program, that in itself will tell you it was originally a cult and they still running on cult mannerisms and ideas and the way of movement, right? So I just, me personally, I wanted to speak out about it because it's just like a funny story to talk about. And if you've been there, you know, you know. If you know, you know. You know what I mean? But I think that was a very traumatic time in my life when it came to being in programs. When I had went to court for the whole police and acting out in front of police, um, I had two options. It was either I went back there or I get committed. So yeah, either I get committed and I start staying between ages of 15 to 18. I'll be staying in lockups, which are um baby jails, pretty much. They're baby jails, but the difference is a lot more freedom in them when it comes to being yourself, right? So I was allowed to eat what I wanted to eat. I was allowed to like talk about what I wanted to talk about. It was I was allowed to listen to music. Like, they told us we could at this program, at this homeschool cult program, they told us we're not allowed to dance or exercise because you could be building muscles to get out of a restraint. So you have all these people that drop not traumatic, dramatic amounts of weight and won't allow them to tone it. So yeah, I might have been insecure that I was a big girl, but now I'm insecure because like look at the skin on me. I have this crazy baggy skin at the age of 15. Like, you know what I mean? And you guys are worried about building muscles to get out of a restraint because you want these young women to be as helpless as possible when you have five or six over 150-pound adults pouncing on them. You know what I mean? So just like I said, the thoughts behind it, I just could not myself like have a child endure that type of abuse. But yeah, so I had the option of being in a lockup or I go back there and I chose the lockup. And honestly, I don't regret it. If I was in that position again, I'd choose the lockup. More so because I was actually very manipulative as a kid. I was a little bit manipulative, and it was a little easier to manipulate my ways in the lockups than it was into the in the group home. You know what I mean? But that's my story about this cult group home I was in. I'm pretty sure I have more ideas, but to speak about this program. But if guys have any questions on my experience, I would be more than happy to give you guys